who's doing a sterling job.
Might go to karaoke if we get to 9 o'clock, just to lighten the mood and for your wife. Oh, if it's angels, then yes. Okay, so to continue. So just to recap, on all these, we're obviously looking at the junction at a time, but please bear in mind we're looking at the scheme as a whole. When we put it together, we've seen a doubling of journey time, and that's what we're trying to get past in terms of the suggestions we're putting forward as alternatives. Just to set the scene really in terms of why we're looking to make these changes. We're not making them for making sake, because we've modelled the do optimum and the indication is there's a doubling of journey times. We're looking to how we accommodate as best we can whilst not enabling that sort of extra delay to be built into Milton Road. Right, so King's Hedges. So just so again, we're looking there's two suggestions that are put forward in the do optimum. There was a Dutch-style roundabout and there was a signalisation of the junction. So hopefully on one of these we can come to an agreement on, more so than the others. Again, we've got the same issues as we've talked around. The difference here is obviously that Elizabeth Way is a roundabout at the moment, and here it's a signalised junction. So when you generally take a signalised junction and return it to a roundabout, regardless of whether that's a Dutch style or whether that's a standard roundabout, if there's an imbalance of flow, so if there's a lot of traffic trying to come across Milton Road, these other arms on a roundabout may not get a look in, to particularly say if there's AMP running across here or PM, or outbound running across, those people trying to get out those lesser junctions with lesser amounts of traffic really don't necessarily get a look into the junction. So just to set the scene for that, if it's an imbalanced junction. That's exactly what we're seeing on here. So although we're seeing improvements on the other arms, as you might expect, because now it almost becomes free flow, so we don't have a massive amount of demand coming from Green End Road, but we're getting a lot of free flow coming through here, so that's great. We've seen benefits, well certainly benefits coming in on the AM and the PM, but not going out. There's a bit of additional PM. But the issue becomes on King's Hedges Road, just not getting the ability for those vehicles to access onto the junction. And that would generally occur, I mean, I think it's heightened because of the Dutch style roundabout, but we're seeing that anyway. So based on, this is increasing from around 10 metres of queuing to 60, that's quite a significant increase, 6 times the increase. So I think whatever we look at here, we need to look at it in a signal sort of capacity rather than in an uncontrolled roundabout. So what was put forward as the other option in the do optimum was a signalised junction with improved pedestrian spacing, increased green space, and we've tried to replicate, and hopefully you can recognise that within this junction, we've tried to replicate as best we can, whilst also taking on board highway design standards to replicate essentially that design. As best we can. It can't be taken as close as this is indicating. It's just not possible with the vehicle turns that need to be accommodated. But otherwise, this is almost as good a replication as we can of a signalised junction that we can accommodate. What we see here then is the blue is the current situation, the red is the do optimum, and the purple is the modified. The difference of why, obviously, we've seen with the do optimum scenario, because it's brought in that more, and there's a tightening of the junction. We're not seeing the benefits we'd like to see. In the one we've designed, which tries to better replicate kind of the highway standards and the movements that would need to be accommodated in the junction, we've still got a lot of benefits that are there in terms of the cycle and pedestrian movements. But what we've done is also we've got these long sections of crossing. That means we have to allow more green time for pedestrians to cross, and that's why you're seeing that being a slight disbenefit, slightly longer queues than you'd have in the current situation, because at the moment it's staggered for that pedestrian crossing. So in having that continuous crossing, that's better. People don't have to get halfway and then wait again, but in doing that, there's a slight disbenefit in terms of the optimisation, in terms of vehicle capacity going through the junction. So. Again, it's that balance, it's balance coming through. So hopefully of all those, that is the one that hopefully all filmers, you will hopefully be happiest with in terms of what your vision looks like when it comes to reality and trying to accommodate that for you.
Good, now open to questions, and Pat, you go first, because I'll stop you.
I'm happy to let other people go
Please.
first.
Please.
All right. Go back to the roundabout diagram for a moment, please. Thank you. Also, thank you, Neil, for going through all this. I didn't say that before. Thank you. Okay, so again, it does appear that the modeling software is having some issue with this type of roundabout, though I will say, that, to be fair, this one is smaller than the Highworth Avenue junction. Highworth Avenue junction is a much larger space. I talked with Richard Terravest about roundabouts, and he was pretty happy with what he saw. He did suggest that this one could use a larger island, so that is something to take into account. I looked into whether that could be done, and yes, it can, at least within the constraints that I had used. We could talk about specific details later. Let's see, can you go on to the next drawing? Next slide, sorry. King's Hedges Road.
That's a question, just so.
Yeah, okay. Basically, I think my point stands. We still have the same issue with modeling and the roundabout. Can I just ask a question about the signalized junction design that you put forward? What's the timing plan here? How do you get people across this junction, and as you said, the longer distances?
So there's a longer all-green stage for pedestrian movements within here to enable those movements to occur. So it's essentially the same timings as we've got in the current junction at the moment, essentially the same staging, but we've increased the green time that's available for the pedestrian movements.
When does the pedestrian movement happen, and when does the cycle movement happen? Does it happen in an exclusive phase, or is it happening?
If we're going to have a meeting, Matt, I'm happy to talk through the details, but in terms of going to try and keep it high level at the moment rather than getting into the detail stages, but we can have that sort of discussion.
I'll let other people go.
Right, now, we'll have 3 more questions. Yes, they're in the purple shirt, and Anna, and is there another person who'd like, oh yes, down there. Good, so 1,
Okay,
2,
my
3.
question, from the data that you've just shown us, there is only one disadvantage of the Dutch-style roundabout, is that only people trying to gain access to King's Hedges Road. Yeah, if we go back, that's the only issue, is it?
You've got the results in front of you there. So we've got a massive amount of queuing occurring. The modelling is in King's Hedges Road will have a large amount of queue.
Is that the problems from King's Hedges is simply in the peak time in the morning? So if that Dutch-style roundabout was traffic light controlled for the peak hour, that would address that problem. But for the rest of the day, avoiding the 2 peak hours, if it was the lights were turned off, it would then run itself without any issue. So just for those 2 peak hours, morning and evening, it could be light controlled. The rest of the day, it could then run itself, and we all know that a roundabout will run at up to about 150% of its supposed capacity. It's just the way it works.
Oh, okay.
No, that's right. Now, Anna, one more question. Sorry.
I wanted to ask if you could just explain what is the benefit of making it one long crossing rather than having the island in the middle? Is it simply to give the extra lane? Because it would seem to take longer to get pedestrians across that very long crossing. So I wanted you just explain that.
Good, and then there was a 3rd question. Yes, please.
It seems to me that all I've seen today is all about car priority, not particularly bus priority or walking priority or cycling priority the whole of the time. You're talking about cars the whole time. And yet what will actually happen is that you actually haven't put in anything about the controlled parking zones that are going to come in, the workplace levies, some way maybe to go round the centre of the city so that the cars won't be coming in. Why are they actually coming down Milton Road when they can't get through to Atterbrooks or somewhere else? And you also need to do something about sat-nav so that when people are coming from Waterbeach and they want to go to Atterbrooks, they are given a different direction to go instead of coming straight through town.
Good. 3 questions then. There was the issue about the peak hours and light controls only at peak hours.
So, yeah, if you wanted a signalised roundabout here, you would have to have a very different design. You can't take a concept like Dutch and the design of it will change. When you put in signals, you have to have stop lines change to a different distance, the whole kind of way you design a junction. So you can't cherry pick elements you want from different elements, different styles and put them all together. We also have kind of regulations in terms of what's been taken forward in the past. I'm not aware of a signalised Dutch junction maybe in Antony's.
I've ridden through them.
You've ridden through them in the UK? No, not in the UK. But so we have different rules in terms of what we can accommodate. And as I said, regardless if it's a Dutch style or just normal roundabout, we're seeing a disbenefit, an inability for King's Hedges traffic to come onto the junction, which will have then knock-on effects around the network. So that hopefully I've answered that.
About one long crossing versus
One long crossing. So the crossing is purely there to for the benefit of cycling for pedestrians. So it's rather than you having to take part of your crossing and cycling, cyclists. So it's for that benefit that you can wait till that point and then you get to undertake the journey of the crossing in one.
What I meant was, does it take longer to cross over one long crossing than it does to do half and half?
Yes. No, it's quicker for you to cross over because you don't have to stop, wait for another set of signal timings and then for you to take your other half of the journey. So it's quicker for you as a pedestrian, but it takes longer for the stage and it's slower for the track. That's why you're seeing that disbenefit to traffic slightly from changing that factor.
And then there's the issue about, we seem to be on about car priority here rather than bus, cyclists and pedestrians. And what about all the other proposals?
Yeah, I mean, if I may need to get to the end of the presentation. And when I do, I'm going to show you the whole scheme. And then hopefully you can see in the context of that we've accommodated cycling, buses, vehicles, all users. But I think we're looking at the junctions at the moment. I think look at the whole scheme and then see what you think at that point. In terms of what we can model, generally that is focused around vehicle movements, and what we're aiming to do is maintain the current levels of traffic delay, average journey time, not make them not double the journey time essentially on most road. We're trying to either make it as it is at the moment, or okay, there can be a slight disbenefit, but not to the extent that we're seeing from the modelling in terms of what when we put the dual-optimum in its entirety into the model.
Well, let's now move on then to the end, because we do have, one moment, we do have to talk about the future engagement of the LLF with this concept, as they say, and I did also want to make it clear at this stage that both the representatives of the Residents Association, Michael Page and Charles Nisbet, are meeting with the City Deal Board on the 15th, that is on Thursday, to actually talk through this whole issue. So I just wanted to assure residents that this isn't the end of the process, and there is this special meeting that will be had with your particular residents' representatives that will give them an opportunity to actually argue for dual optimum with the board, or to put issues to the board. But if you go on, Neil, with the...
Okay, so just to conclude then on the presentation. So with all those changes that we put together, just a reminder, so this is the situation of journey time, so this is average journey time along Milton Road. In the current situation, what the model showing will be a doubling in the AM peak on the dual optimum, and therefore if we put the modified dual optimum in its entirety, then we're seeing a benefit to the current situation. And that extra capacity we have there, we then have the ability to play further around with bus priority, so which will impact on general vehicle times, on average journey times, but we could also probably level off to the current situation whilst giving extra priority to buses. In terms of what we're doing with bus lanes, this is just to put it in context for you. I mean, the current, I know people feel that they don't see buses travelling down the busway, but what I've tried to indicate to you is if we took them away, and I know there is some small elements of bus lanes in there, bus priority, there has been some consideration of the optimum, but in general bus lanes are taken out for the majority of length. If we strip those out, I think what I've tried to indicate to you is there's a doubling and a greater variance, a doubling in journey time for buses, so there's less incentive for people to take buses, and there's greater variance in their ability to travel down Milton Road, which means that the timetable is not able to be kept to. What we're suggesting in the modified do-optimum is essentially only an extra 240 metres of bus lane. So we're not trying to dominate the space of bus lanes. What we're trying to do is better use the bus lanes where we can in terms of splitting them, so they're not on both sides of the road, but optimising it in terms of, and when you see the final scheme in a minute, you can see where we've moved them from one side of the road to other. At the moment, the modelling doesn't include for hurry calls or junctions or priority at the junctions, which is something else that we're going to be looking at. As I said, it's the concept we're looking to take forward. And I'm just trying to indicate with this slide that we're not adding to dominate the space, we're just trying to not reduce the bus lanes from the current situation. That's something that would not be acceptable to the council in terms of an objective to make bus priority better along the road.
Who says so? It was bus priority, not bus lane.
Well, it's still the same situation. If we take out the bus lanes that are there at the moment, there'll be a worse situation for buses travelling down Milton Road.
I don't think that the managing director of the bus company here wants bus lanes all the way.
We have had a meeting with Andy, and we have talked through where he would like to have them, and that's been accommodated within the design. So we've fully consulted with Andy Campbell on where he would like to see bus priority. And what we also need to consider is we're talking around the current situation, not the future situation, where we're going to have a lot greater use of buses. Anyway, moving on so we can finish the presentation. Here we go again. So we're looking at, again, bus. This is what I'm trying to talk around, the bus reliability. So again, in outbound, we're seeing current situation. There's not a massive amount of change, but that's because there's not a lot of bus lane here at the moment. We don't have so much on the outbound because that's not where they're experiencing the biggest issues, but the modified do-optimum does make an improvement. What we do see though on the AM, so this is inbound into the city in buses, the current situation, that's the average, that's the variance, this is the issue which would be situated with if we do the optimum, and therefore where we've put in the bus lanes and aim to optimise them, we're seeing a benefit over the current situation, which is what we're aiming to achieve, and that would likely increase once we put hurry calls and other priority movements into the signalisation of the junctions. So what we've aimed to do, although I know there's a lot of other opinions, is try to look at the design considerations and make sure that a do-optimum scheme is modified to meet all of them. So does it meet all the project objectives? We believe that the modified suggestion we're putting forward does. Does the design provide sufficient infrastructure to improve bus journey times reliability? We believe it meets that. Would it be performed safely? We believe we've designed it in terms of the junctions where it has a better ability to do that. And it's compatible with design guidance and standards which the do-optimum we've obviously looked to try and accommodate, but wasn't in its design as it was presented to us initially. Key layer is the most suitable in achieving the right balance, and it is that balance between traffic delays and improved bus journey times. That's what we're trying to do. And does it fit within the highway boundaries and the existing drive accesses, which, again, the do-optimum didn't consider and we've aimed to consider in terms of what we're doing. So where does that leave us? So this will be online, so you have the ability to look at this. Obviously, we're not asking you to make your decision or be able to take it all in at this moment. But what we've presented, therefore, what we're going to do is provide a design concept to you at this stage, which, if agreed in terms of a concept by the City Council Board, detailed design will then be taken forward to work it up with the LLF and with stakeholders. So we're looking for a base in which we can move from. Please note, in terms of what I'm going to show you now, elements we haven't considered this time are in terms of bus stop locations, because we do that in consultation with yourself and Stagecoach. Additional pedestrian crossings outside the junctions, again that's something we're happy to discuss with you and identify where those would be. And detailed parking schemes, we've given an indication, but obviously we need to do further work in terms of that with officers and experts in the LLF. So what we've produced is essentially the do-optimum scheme is the below, and then our do-modified scheme is above. And what we've aimed to present to make it as easy as possible for comparison is to try and match the style that's being presented. So they're both kind of indicative. The trees, we have looked at where we could put trees based on where the drive access. I know we're not showing the accesses, so we didn't want to clutter it up. But what we've done is shown where we could probably accommodate trees. But I'm not guaranteeing you that exactly that's where a tree is going to be. Obviously, this is just an indication. So on each stage of the of Milton Road, in terms of the residents, in terms of the do optimum, we've got a comparison with what we're proposing as a modified do option along the section of the road. We've identified where we've got options for further consideration, where it's, say, for example, Elizabeth Way. So we've taken each section and we've done a direct comparison to make it as transparent as possible in terms of what we're suggesting would work in terms of the combination of the engineering work we've done and the modelling work. In trying to replicate what you've put forward and trying to meet the objectives in terms of accommodating bus lanes while still accommodating the elements of your design. So that's there for the entirety. That will be available online for you to view, and that will hopefully give you a full picture of what we feel we're able to justify coming forward with, based on the modelling, based on the engineering work we've done to date for this concept, in terms of something that could work to meet all demands on Milton Road in comparison to yours. So hopefully, it obviously has to be different. We can't put the do optimum in its entirety, just purely in terms of some of that design elements don't work when you're trying to put it into the real world, in terms of, say, particularly the junctions of the turning movements, etc., in terms of tracking vehicles. So we've got a concept here to put forward to have a direct comparison. So bear that in mind. Please, in doing that, look and see where you can see, it's not just about spot the difference in terms of other elements, it's about consideration of where you can see how this is very different to a do something or do maximum design that's come before. This is very much trying to match with the do optimum as best we can.
Good. Thank you. Now, there's 3 questions so far. Richard Taylor, then Hilary Boy, and then Anna Bradley.
Thanks. On the introduction to the section on the Milton Road and Elizabeth Way roundabout section, you gave us a slide which showed incidents, and I think you mentioned injury statistics and said that was going to be modelled. So are we going to see the results of the modelling of injuries and show what you expect the rate of injuries and deaths to be of your proposals versus the do optimum plans?
Just before I just answer that, I didn't say we were going to model, I don't believe I said that we were going to model accidents. What I was indicating there is that we mapped all the accidents that have occurred so far from the police data, and therefore we've got that in consideration as highway designers when we design something. So with the solution we come up with, both the signalisation generally does, because you can have allow cyclists to go before other traffic. Generally, when you signalise either a roundabout or we went for the 3 on T-junction, we aim to have a better safety record. But we haven't got the ability to model what accidents might be because of the random nature generally of accidents. You obviously look at the history, you look at what's occurred with accidents in the past, and you try to learn from that to identify where the black spots are of the junction or where the issues are, and you try to accommodate in that design. So there's no ability for us to kind of model that and indicate to you what an accident record will be in the future in any of these junctions.
Right, well now, I've got Hilary on the list and Anna. Is there one other person who'd like to, yes, Matt, and we'll have those 3 questions and we won't have any answer until we have the 3 questions. So please Hilary, then Anna, then Matt. Thank you.
How many buses have you seen using the bus lane in comparison with the ones that go down the main carriageway?
Right, okay, so buses are not using the bus lanes. I think the suggestion is, so will they use them if we put in new bus lanes? Right, Anna, sorry.
Okay. Bear with me. I'll try to make this as succinct as possible. In the modified do optimum summary, broadly speaking, my understanding is you have tended to put bus lanes back in or retain them. Fine, okay, I appreciate why you're doing that. But in those bar chart data, the do optimum purple bars simply show one set of data for the result of that. But there's actually, we don't care 2 hoots if cars are queuing for longer, because actually we want that, don't we? Yeah. We want to stop people using their cars. We want to get them onto the buses. So actually, what I wanted to ask is, in the modelling, is there any distinction between the resultant speed of the bus lane versus the resultant speed of the vehicles?
Right.
Can you answer that now? Otherwise we'll lose track of what the question
No,
was.
we won't lose track of it, no. And we're going to have Matt.
I just want to make a clarification for the audience, and then I'll ask the technical question. Not that technical. I just want to say that in the Netherlands, they're actually replacing signalized junctions with roundabouts because the modern design is both safer and higher capacity than the old style and dense signals. As much as possible. Sometimes you can't do that, but where you can replace them, they do. And then the question is, can you please clarify what a bus hurry call is for the audience? And then I have a follow-up question immediately after that, if that's okay, Jocelyn, because the second part of my question hinges on that.
Okay, right, well now, this is about how we're going to get the buses to use the bus lanes if they're not using them now. With the issue about cars, we want cars to be queuing, and does the model show that buses are getting through more quickly, but that we hope cars are not?
So the message I'm getting is, quite clearly, is people don't like bus lanes on Milton Road, I understand. But you're happy for queuing of vehicle traffic to increase. I guess it comes down to, are you happy if obviously the modelling is an estimation of what would occur. If it occurred and there was a doubling of journey time, a doubling of queuing on Milton Road, so if that occurred, would that be acceptable to you, I guess? Would you be happy to see that?
Yes, because it would get people under the bus.
Well, but then to do that, so if we're saying that we're going to increase, we're happy for vehicle queues to increase exponentially and a doubling to occur, then how do we therefore enable buses to have that priority? Because otherwise they'll be stuck in traffic. We need to have more bus lanes, because we have to have a separate lane for them to travel in that isn't in the vehicle lane, because the vehicle lane will be... So it's a balance, isn't it? If we're not going to have a lot of extra bus lanes, then we've got to be able to enable the buses to move in genuine traffic when it's not in a bus lane.
But your question was, but does your modelling distinguish between the results for the vehicle lane and the bus lane that you have proposed in your modified doing?
Yeah, so in terms of the difference at the moment, so these are outline modelling at the moment, and we haven't got for 2031. For 2016, the indication is you get, so this is for every passenger, so you imagine, yeah, for now, but we're looking for the future as well, where there'll be an improved benefit, because likelihood is traffic would increase. So if you think on each bus, it's 76 people on each bus. So I want to get the magnitude of the kind of the change that's also occurring. So if you've got 10 buses an hour, and you've got them coming down, and there's 76 people, there's obviously a lot of people that are getting affected by this. It's about 2-minute journey saving is indicated at the moment in terms of what you might see from this initial, in the current day, but we haven't got the future year figure in terms of what that would be.
Good, and now the response to Matt.
But can you clarify the bus hurry call for...
Yes, sorry. Bus hurry call is essentially, it detects the bus is there, and it brings forward the stage in which brings a green light for the bus. So it knows the bus is there, and it will change the signal timing to enable the bus to progress through the junction.
And then my follow-up to that is that the Do Optimum proposal relies on that feature for its bus priority mechanisms. So if that wasn't modeled...
That is modeled. That's the results I presented to you that has that element in. What I'm saying is not in our, in terms of the modified, we haven't included it in ours. So in terms of the Do Optimum modelling I've shown you, that has got that in. But what I'm saying is in terms of ours, we've only just put the bus lanes. We haven't, in terms of what I've shown you in terms of the modified Do Optimum results, we haven't at the moment put any hurry calls or...
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, thank you.
You haven't answered my question. Have you seen buses use the bus lanes?
I have seen buses use the bus lanes on Milton Road, yes.
Number 9 does.
Right, that question's been answered. Now, I've got a question from Councillor Martin Smart, and the question from here in the blue shirt, and that's the end of the questions, I'm sorry, but we have to move on to what the futures of the LLF in this engagement, and then we have to move ourselves out of the building. So, Martin first, and then the gentleman in the blue shirt.
I'm the lead council for cycling in the city, so it's a cycling related question. So my question is, you seem to be talking about the Do Optimum scheme being modified for health and safety reasons and such like with cars. With the cycling, as far as I could see, well, it was difficult to see the differences, you've pretty much taken the Do Optimum scheme, and a lot of the cycling happens behind the trees, away from the road, which is what Do Optimum wanted to happen. So, I mean, my question is like rhetorical, really, because I'm sure you've done it. but have you checked that that's all going to work functionally and safely in terms of cyclists being able to, cyclists, and you have referred earlier to having lots of different cyclists on the road, cyclists being able to use that system. And what I'm particularly concerned about is cyclists choosing to use the road as opposed to the cycle lane, cyclists moving fast along the cycle lane and bumping into pedestrians who they'll be next to, trees bashing into buses because they're right next to the road, and such like. So have you considered all those factors to ensure that the scheme works?
Right, stop please, the question.
I really just want to make an observation, so maybe you want to answer the question.
Oh no, please have your observation.
Okay. So I'm Edward Lee, Smarter Cambridge Transport. I have to say, to start with, I really, really appreciate the effort that you and your team have made in trying to accommodate residents and cycling campaigns' interest in this. But I really think you've been given an absolutely impossible task. You are not going to be able to satisfy both the city deal objectives and residents' desires. And that's abundantly apparent because in putting back the bus lanes, you have ended up having to compromise the cycling infrastructure to the point where it is not an end-to-end safe experience, and that's what we really need in order to get people taking their young children to school or making those short trips to the shops and so on. And actually, one thing, and this is really an observation for Councillor Herbert here, who's chair of the City Deal Board, is that actually one of the objectives that was missing in the original brief was to maximise modal shift to walking and cycling as a high, possibly the highest priority. We have no idea what the potential of that is, but it is plausible that it's in the order of 10%. And that is enough to decongest the road by itself. Now, if we follow through that objective and we say, okay, well, that will reduce the capacity of some of the junctions, it will reduce the capacity of the road. We've still got to get the buses through, and that's a perfectly reasonable other objective to have, that we don't want to hold the buses up. The conclusion from that is that we have to reduce the volume of other traffic using the road. Now, if we had set those original objectives, we would now be thinking, okay, how can we achieve that objective? And if we were to achieve that objective, and we've got a number of proposals on the table, including inbound flow control to regulate the flow of traffic at the top of the road, putting in a bus cycle bypass from the park and ride through the back, there's a bridge, a tunnel under the A14 behind the regional college, that could connect the park and ride by bus and cycle straight into the back of the regional college and King's Hedges Road. That would be a very attractive route for people to cycle, avoiding either crossing the A10 or going across the interchange. And also all of the city centre access study is all about reducing the parking availability and reducing the desirability of driving through the city centre. We would be looking at that now because we have decided that that's the priority, to reduce the amount of through traffic. And we've just said we've ended up having wasted probably the best part of £1 million, or maybe £500,000 on this particular project, on coming up with a solution which nobody's happy with. It's not going to really meet the city deal objectives, and it's not going to satisfy residents and the people who are trying to get into the city from outside. So we've fundamentally failed because we started out with the wrong brief and the wrong objectives.
Come back to Martin's question and then any response that you'd like to.
Sorry, could you remind me of the...
That we seem to have been concentrating on the need for modification to ensure health and safety in relation to the car movements and so on.
Yeah, in terms of cycling. So essentially, it's a design concept. We've tried to adapt it to an extent, but as you say, we've tried to mirror what the residents would like to see coming forward. When we take this into kind of more of a detailed design, we go through a safety audit stage, which we haven't gone through at this extent. Some of these elements where we have got a lot of drive accesses coming out, and we are proposing some of these elements broadly we're happy that something could be put forward like this, but we need to go through safety audit, a number of stages of that to check whether it really is safe. So this is a concept, so we haven't got, until we've got more detailed design to actually test for safety. I appreciate some of the concepts we need to be more comfortable with if we're going to pursue that. But at the moment, we're generally happy that this could be done, but obviously each time there's going to be, each access point even, there's going to be a specific case in point in terms of what the land, whether there's bushes for that driveway that maybe we can't accommodate at the moment. Other elements that might obscure cyclists that obviously the really broad scheme we've not accommodated or been able to consider. So there are some of those elements we have to go forward with doing to make sure that obviously people are safe in using these areas, but what we're trying to do is reflect what residents have asked us to kind of provide. In terms of the trees and buses, that's kind of another reason why putting a wholesale, obviously keeping the same look of the avenue of trees down and planting them in a better situation in which they can grow and survive and be healthy, and that gives an opportunity when you're doing any scheme we put in would disrupt the current trees, and obviously then we can put trees which maybe wouldn't have such a big crown and will be designed to start they grow to not be impacting with the buses.
I think that we now should say a big thank you to Neil and to Chris for having done the presentation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, guys. And I'm just going to hand you over to Richard Paul. Sorry, it's been a long evening. Who is he's the project manager on the council side, is going to talk through the next stages.
Thank you. I'm Paul van der Bok, the project manager for Milton Road Scheme and the Eastern Road Scheme, and a fairly newish project manager on the scheme. So, obviously, my experience of the last LLF and tonight, I understand that there's quite a formidable task ahead. In terms of the, I'm just going to quickly run through the future programme. So obviously we've had the LLF tonight. We now have a couple of meetings. We're going to meet with Matthew Banish to go over the scheme, get a few of his points, and there's also a chance, obviously following this evening, for you to submit comments and observations to the City Bill email address, which we can provide after the meeting. We have to then complete the report, which is going to go to the board. When the report is actually published, which will be on the 7th of July, we will hold a public briefing session. We haven't yet finalised the date for that, but can I say it?
Yeah, there was a problem. We were going for the 6th, but it's clashing with other meetings.
Yeah, so we're looking.
People won't be able to be here.
So we're looking perhaps for the Monday after the publication of that report for a public, for a stakeholder briefing session. It was.
What date is that?
10th.
Can I just clarify, you just said public and then stakeholder?
Sorry, I remember it was a stakeholder briefing, but Jocelyn has stated it would be a public briefing session.
So which is correct?
What I've
It's
said.
public stakeholders.
We invite stakeholders, but the public will be able to come to the meeting. We then have the assembly, which leads up to the executive board on the 26th of July, when the report will be submitted and the resolutions will also go before the board. If the board agree to the concept, and again reiterate that it is a concept, then through the summer and the autumn we'll go through the detailed design stages. We'll have LLF design workshops to inform the design of the trees, and in those workshops we'll also have Cambridge City tree officers, other experts to help us inform the design. And we'll have LLF design workshop and bus stops and crossings, as has been mentioned by Neil earlier, to basically make sure that we take on board what you say and get those in the right places. Well, we haven't actually got any dates yet, but further LLF meetings was required. Put that up because we will obviously hold LLF meetings when we feel there's a need to hold one. Early in 2018, the executive board will consider the detailed design, and then following that we'll have a full public consultation on the approved detailed design, so there'll be another opportunity to engage with the public and to hear your feedback on the scheme. Okay, so I think that's the future programme. Jocelyn, thank you.
Good. Thanks so much, Paul. Thank you. And just to conclude the meeting, I have here a document that sets out the question process for both the Assembly and the Board. So those who wish to make sure they get their questions in on time and so forth, please come and get one of these documents that sets out the process. And remember that the Assembly meets and then the Board meets a week later, and there is an opportunity for questions via this process. But please do make sure also that if you're asking questions, coordinate with each other so that there's lots of time when we can get feedback from the Board as to, and the Assembly as to the Assembly's view of our resolutions and do optimum, and the Board's response then to our resolutions and do optimum. But just remember, as Paul has emphasised, this is not the end of the process, and there will be opportunities for us to engage, as Paul has pointed out, in the future going forward, as they say, of the process. I just want to make a personal comment too. A couple of times during this meeting, I may have been observed texting. I certainly was not tweeting, I was texting, and it was because both Claire and I were supposed to be in another meeting at 8 o'clock. We're clearly not there, and I did want to do the right thing and advise the people that we're still here, not there. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, so there's no misunderstanding.